let's get into the ADU conversation. And I want to say thank you to our speakers who are willing to come on and have this conversation. And we have Sergio Michel. He is a mortgage loan originator from PMG Home Loans, and he's going to share with us what he's been hearing from the lending industry. How are we going to navigate around this AB 1033, or when we are going to get to sell these ADU separately. And also we have Luka Radovac, and he is the director of operations at AS Architecture, and he's going to share with us like how you can build ADU efficiently, and then maybe if you do plan on selling it in the future, so what are the things that you should be paying attention to. And of course we have Luis Morante. He is the VP of Public Policy at the Bay Area Council. He understands AB 1033. He's going to give us some insights about like how this bill came about and how he's been fighting to increase housing in the Bay Area. And as we all know, we keep talking about like the real estate price is too expensive. But one of the things is that we need to increase housing supply. That's how we can control the prices. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So Luka, I know you do have a presentation that you would like to share with all of us regarding how to build ADU. So I'm going to go ahead and let you start first.
Thank you, Helen. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Luka Radovic, and I am the Director of Operations at AS Architecture. We are based in Sacramento, California, and we are covering SF Bay Area, Sacramento, and Los Angeles projects. Collectively, we have over 12 years of work experience on residential and commercial projects, and we are licensed in California and Oregon. Here are some of our recent projects. Over the years, we worked on various types of residential projects, but today we'll focus on ADUs. I would like to say that in the last couple of years, we worked on a couple dozen of ADU projects. So first, I would like to talk about some general regulations. Then we will look at the ADU examples that we worked on, and then we will look at AB 1033 and SB9 in more detail. So what is an ADU? ADU is a separate dwelling area on the same land as a single-family house or multifamily residential property. It is an affordable, effective option for adding much-needed housing in California, and it's also a great way of earning an extra income. Another form of ADU is a junior accessory dwelling unit, or that is zoned for single-family residences. And a good thing to know about junior ADUs is they have to stay within the walls of the proposed or existing primary residence. So California ADU laws have been changing since 2020, and I will let Luis talk more about that. But some of the general updates in the last couple of years are single-family residences are allowed to add one ADU and one junior ADU. Existing multifamily properties are allowed two ADUs, attached or detached, and this may vary by city. ADUs may be used for personal use or as a rental unit. The cities over the years have worked on reducing city impact development fees. And if you're proposing an ADU, you don't have to provide additional parking spaces in most cities. With one of the newer regulations, SB9, a single-family home lots can now be split to create more units. And with the newest regulation, AB 1033, ADUs can be sold separately from their primary residence. So some of the general size requirements you should be aware of when thinking about building an ADU is that the max height is usually around at 16 feet. ADUs have to be 4 feet away from the property line, more than 5 feet away from the main residence. And when we're talking about maximum areas, there is a limit of 850 square feet for one-bedroom ADUs, and for two-bed ADUs, in most cities, the limit is 1,000 square feet. So where to start? I'll let Sergio talk more about financing, as we're not experts in that field. But the second step should definitely be to hire an architect who can help you figure out what is possible and what complies with zoning. Once we figure out what exactly you can do in your lot, then we can look at some designs that meet your budget and needs. And once we're happy with the design, then we can bring other people on board that can help us create structural drawings, like the structural engineer, or we need an energy report that is required by most cities, and that will be done by an energy consultant. Once we have all the documents ready, then we can manage the city submittal and permitting process. So once we compile all those documents and submit to the city, at that point, you'll probably be required to pay city fees. And once the city reviews the plans and approves them, then you can go ahead and hire a contractor and start the construction. We strongly advise you to engage your contractor as early as possible to ensure a smooth schedule and obtain preliminary pricing. And once the ADU is complete, you can occupy, rent, or sell your ADU. So there are several types of ADUs. There's a basement conversion. Maybe you have an unfinished basement or a garage on the bottom level, and you want to turn that into an ADU. The second case is a converted existing detached structure, which can be the detached garage that you already have on the lot. You may convert that into an ADU, or maybe you have a house sitting on a lot where there is a lot of space, or there is some space in the rear lot behind the house. You may create or propose a new construction, a new detached ADU. The last case would be attached ADU. This is when the site gives you a lot of constraints. And in that case, the proposed ADU would share one or more walls with the existing primary residence. Now I'll show you an example we worked on where we did a basement/garage conversion in Oakland. So this was a 620 square foot conversion from a 2-car garage to a 2-bed, 1-bathroom ADU. To give you some visuals, here's what the existing house looked like. You can see a 2-car garage here and unfinished basement in this photo. What we proposed to the client was to lower the existing floor by about 2 feet to create more ceiling height and to be able to fit 2-bed, 1-bath in that space. In order to do that, we had to dig down and to get to the desired ceiling height of 8 feet. And while doing that, the existing structure on top had to be propped up. Here you can see the installation of windows. So even though this is partially submerged unit, it still gets a lot of natural light. And here's the finished building. So you can see Unit A, which was the existing top unit, and the Unit B, which was a basement conversion. So here's a photo before and after. A good thing to note is that anytime you're proposing an accessory dwelling unit, you will most likely be required to have a separate address for that unit, like in this example. Here's some interior photos. You see the kitchen here, and here you can see the bathroom in the back. Now we'll look at an example of a converted existing accessory structure, which was a garage slash workshop in San Leandro. So it was a 330 square foot conversion from the existing structure to a studio ADU. So you can see here the existing plan and the proposed plan. Here's a view of the exterior once we started altering that existing structure. So here's the ADU, and here's the existing main residence. Here's the photo from the interior. So even though it's a small space, we designed it in a way where it still feels pretty big when you're inside. And anytime we do designs, we try to be efficient with building systems. So here you can see all the plumbing is in one wall. Here's a photo from the exterior, from looking at the front of the structure. And this is what it will look like once finished. The last example I would like to show you is a detached ADU. So it's a new construction. Here we were a little bit limited by the lot size. So a good strategy was to use the 16-foot height maximum that we could do. And instead of proposing a 1-story ADU, we actually proposed a loft ADU where the bedroom space was actually put on top of the bathroom and kitchen area. And we had almost a double height space for a living area. We also met clients' needs. So besides proposing 600 square foot loft ADU, we also proposed 200 square foot home office. And here's when the construction started. You can see the building going up here. So here you can see the bedrooms above the kitchen and the bathroom. And here's the double height space. This is a 15-foot ceiling space here with double windows. So there's a lot of natural light. You can see the space from above. This is when the stucco was going up. And here's an interior photo during the construction. And here's when it's done. This is once the stucco was finished on the exterior. And now that we looked at all the examples, I would like to go into more details about AB1033. So the main thing about this is ADUs will be looked at as condo units. ADUs with this regulation will be allowed to be sold separately. The goal was to create more homeownerships And when homeowners decide to do this, they must notify the local utilities, including water, sewer, gas, electric, of the creation and separate conveyance of the unit. And there will need to be some form of a tenancy common agreement. You may know of this as a homeowners association to continue managing the shared space. And another good thing to note is that the primary home and the ADU will have two different property taxes. On another hand, we have SB9. So the difference here is that you're not selling the unit that you're proposing, but you're actually deciding to split the existing single-family home lot into two lots, which then allows you to increase the total amount of units that you can build on those lots. And those units can also be ADUs. The difference here is that the owner occupancy is required. So you will have to live in one of those units. I'll show you an example here in our Sacramento development. So we had an existing single-family house sitting on an existing quarter-acre lot. So if we look at this example, this project in two regulations, on the left-hand side, you can see AB 1033 regulation. So we have the existing residence here, the existing house that we're not touching. We're also not altering the quarter-acre lot, but we are proposing ADU that we can later sell through setting up HOA. On another side, we have SB9 regulation, which is a little bit different. So instead of selling the proposed unit, we're actually splitting the lot. So we're creating two 5,000 square foot properties. And because we have created another lot, we are now allowed to create one more main residence. So not only that we have house one, we also have house two as the main residence on the second lot. And because we have two primary residences for each of those main residences, we can create accessory dwelling structures to those main residences. So then we can create ADU one for house one and another ADU two for the house two. So in total, we will have 4 units on that same lot. But again, there are some limitations, so be prepared. You will probably be required to live in one of those units if you decide to take this step. Lastly, I would like to say that any of these projects won't be possible without a team effort. So on all of these, you may be you will have to work with real estate agents like Helen, loan officers like Sergio. Then you'll have to hire an architect and work with us so we can manage and coordinate things with the engineers and make all the documents comply with codes that come from policymakers like Luis. And then we all together work with cities and local jurisdictions to permit the plans. And once the plans are permitted, then we all work with contractors to execute the project. And we wouldn't be able to do this without everybody else involved in the project. And our joy truly comes from helping our clients achieve their dreams. And we do that by designing and coordinating everyone involved in the project. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This is really, really helpful to understand at least, right? How do you plan for an ADU? I think the idea of it, like a lot of people love it. And a lot of people got very excited about AB 1033, but I really want to ask Luis, what is the whole primary motivation behind it? Because I know right now a lot of cities are encouraging to build ADU, but this is like taking another step up. It's like not only you can build ADU, you can also sell it. So can you kind of explain a little bit about like what is the primary motivation behind AB 1033?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to talk to that, and happy to be here today. Luka had put up all the bills that affect ADU stuff on his slide. Almost all of which, I think there were 2 that I was not the lead lobbyist for. And there were a bunch of bills that I'd forgotten about. So I was like adding that to my CV, being like, damn, I left this one off. Oh, sorry, shouldn't swear, the lobbyist. But happy to talk about AB 1033. It was one of the most challenging bills I have ever worked on. And it was sort of frustrating how challenging it was, but I'm really glad that we were able to land the author, Assembly Member Phil Ting from West San Francisco, I think put it best, the sort of why we're doing this in the committee testimony about the bill. When he was younger, he had inherited a duplex from his parents in San Francisco. He and his brother split the duplex into 2, condoized it off, and were able to build home equity, which is why both of them were able to stick around in San Francisco. That's a big part of staying power, is being able to own a home. And so he really wanted to help bring that opportunity to others. And we saw 1033 as a great opportunity for that. The state of California had previously prohibited the separate conveyance or the sale of an ADU apart from the main dwelling unit. So if I had built an ADU in the home that I'm in now, I could sell both to somebody, but I couldn't sell just the ADU to somebody. And AB 1033 repealed that prohibition and established a process by which local governments could opt in to allow ADU home sales. Helen, as you mentioned, the state of California now currently compels local governments in most situations to approve ADUs for rent. It does not do the same for sale units. I think someday that'll happen. Especially because of graphs like yours that you shared at the top, where we're all very aware that there's no volume, there are no transactions happening right now, nothing on the market's affordable. There's a big shortage of especially first-time home buyer options. And in the markets that allow ADU condos like Portland, Seattle, Austin, and Princeton, New Jersey, these homes, the ADU condos that we modeled off of, can sell for anywhere between 40 and 60% less than similar homes in the same neighborhood. So it is a huge savings opportunity for first-time home buyers for whom 800 square feet might just be enough for them and a cat or them and a partner, and it's a stepping stone to a bigger house in the community.
So that's so interesting that, and last time when we spoke, I was asking, so have you seen any actual cases that has been done? And then you mentioned that city of San Jose might be the first city that one of those projects. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, unfortunately, we haven't seen any city opt in just yet, although it has been the law now for just slightly under 90 days. So I will give local governments a little bit of room to opt in. The mayor of San Jose is really gung-ho about doing this. He really wants to see more homeownership options in his community, which I roundly applaud. And the city council directed San Jose's planning staff to bring them an ordinance sometime soon that will establish that they're opting in. Other cities that I know are working on this include Berkeley and the city of Sacramento. And in all of those situations, it's because regular homeowners, renters, people in that community reached out to their local elected official to say, hey, this would be a really great opportunity for our community. Can we take advantage of it? And so I would encourage those on the call to do the same. If this is an important policy for you, look up who your city council member is and shoot them an email and say why opting into AB 1033 is a good opportunity.
Awesome. And if I think there's one question, because this is so new and so no one really know how to handle this. Can you tell us a little bit more, like if we do AB 1033, what happens to your land? So used to this is your land, and now you can sell this ADU separately. So who owns that whole piece of land, or will the ADU actually have their own APN with the lot size as well?
Good question. It'll differ county to county, assessor to assessor a little bit. It'll also vary based on whatever the local ordinance is that your city chooses to draft in opting in. However, I think the broad strokes are pretty clear. In most situations, we're talking about an ADU condo. So as you mentioned, this is going to be a situation where an HOA will administer probably most of the land, especially at least the joint land. And then there will be probably 2 or 3 shareholders in the HOA, and they're what are called CC&Rs, will govern how things like payment of water bills and trash bills and that sort of stuff is to happen. This is a common thing for bigger condo projects, as you probably know. It's relatively new in California at this small scale. So it'll be somewhat of a test of our industry, but the folks in Oregon in particular have really excelled with this model. And I will say it's actually been more successful there for small owner builders. So a person that it would probably be described as a small developer will come in, they'll buy a home, they'll do a big renovation, including adding an ADU and the CC&Rs, and then they'll sell both. So this has been a really popular business model for a lot of people in the Pacific Northwest. Um, and like I said, those ADU condos are often much cheaper. But especially for realtors, this is going to be a complex transaction. Developers will need to work with a professional. This is a huge opportunity for folks because there's the transaction to buy the house, and then both transactions to sell both of the components of the house that are created. So I'm really excited about what opportunities lie in front of us. Luka had a great slide, and then I'll be quiet. Luke had a great slide sort of comparing the maps of what these things will look like. One of the reasons we thought that a condo option would be beneficial versus the SB9 option where you're doing a lot split is that traditionally, from a legal standpoint, it's much easier actually to do the condo mapping than to split the lot. And requires a lot less by way of payment of impact fees to your local government. So I think that homeowners will find this option very attractive, even though for folks often being in an HOA is unattractive. It's still too early to see how effective this is going to be, but I have very high hopes for it. And I think based on the successes similar models have shown in other states, it will be extremely successful. One last fact that I'll leave you with. Is that ADU production is now 25% of the state's housing production. So if we're able to accelerate that in the home sale arena, we're really going to be taking off with a ton of volume.
Oh, that's interesting because earlier I had mentioned that out of 500 something home sales, single family home sales in Santa Clara County, January, only 30 of them has additional structure. And
Right.
honestly, smaller than 500 square feet, there's some like only 100 square feet. I don't think those are like ADUs, but anyhow, it's only 30 of those that have some kind of additional structure. So that will be interesting. In the future, we're going to see a lot more of homes sell that include ADU. And
Yep.
what you just mentioned regarding the ADU being colonized. So now that's the question for Sergio. If we have clients like want to buy a ADU or a single family has an ADU on it that has been sold separately, how are we going to finance these deals?
So how are we going to fund these things? So I'm at the largest lender in the United States right now. I'm sitting in their building. And I posed this question to some of the higher ups and one of the condo specialists. He said, as of right now, we're going to treat it just like a condo. We're going to compare it to what's out there. And they compare it to what else sells that's similar sized. Okay, we can do that. And in a similar situation. That is the little bit of the sticking point right now is the similar situation, an ADU. Has one of these been sold yet? As of right now, this lender, UWM, will probably not take this on because they are my go-to lender for the easy things. If it's something more difficult, we're gonna have to go find that other lender. I have been talking to, oh man, I think over the last 3-4 weeks, I've talked to about 25 different lenders. And they're like, we're waiting for that first one. So we're waiting to see what, Lewis said San Jose might be one of the first ones. We're waiting to see what that legislation or the rules within San Jose are going to be in order for us to figure out what we can do. Once you get your architect, once you talk to AS Architecture, and you're going through that whole process of them designing in a beautiful space for you, how are you going to fund it? How are you going to build it out? So then you can sell it, okay? That's the easy part. You can do a HELOC for you. We can do a cash out, refinance for you, then refinance all that back into one loan, to get that equity back into your house. Or we can, there are some other construction loans that are out there that will help wrap it all up into one nice little ball once you're done. And within those construction products, there is something that we can do that will protect you and the contractor that's helping you. So what we're going to do is we're going to find out after we get those estimates from Luka and how much it's going to be, we get all those contractors lined up. We're going to find out how much they need to get started. We're going to do our deposit. That's all that's going to be released. We're going to set timelines for them to set up as to when we can fund the next part of the project. And once we hit those milestones, an inspector is going to come out from one of our team, from the lenders team that we're working with, they're going to sign off on it and release more funds to continue the project on. And once you get going on this, it's a fairly seamless process because, you know, they work at their, you know, because the contractor wants to get paid, you want to get paid, so they kind of make it work very easily because, you know, money makes things happen. So, and so once you're all done with the project, we're going to refinance you, get rid of that construction loan, put it all under one loan, you know, at a better rate than we had before, hopefully, you know, if things continue to go down. And then San Jose approves it. We're going to go ahead and be the first one to sell that property.
Everybody is waiting for that first person. Get it done, and then let us see how is that case study is going to look like.
Well, I am continuing to talk to other lenders, other large lenders, to see what we can do, and see what I mean in the hallway. So we'll see what we can do, and as fast as we can do it. So I'm going to mute myself for a couple of seconds.
You know, one of the Sergio, one of the comments you made really made me think and reminded me that the folks who got into ADU lending initially about 5 years ago, when the industry really started taking off, were the smaller community serving institutions than the big players. Those community serving institutions were much more risk tolerant with this product type, and that really paid off for them. And so I think as we think about where lending will come from for these condos, we should be thinking first about our small credit unions and those types of lenders.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree with you. They probably have some more flexible terms. And I want to remind the audiences that we have about 12 minutes left. If you have any questions, feel free to type it into the Q&A box, and then we can talk. We can, you know, get one of our speakers to answer your questions. I still have so many questions in my head. For example, okay, great. Now your ADU is a condo. So when I'm like, let's say when I have to sell this single family house that has an ADU sold separately, is that single family house considered a single family house still, but then it has an HOA on it?
That might differ based on how your local MLS would list stuff, if there are local guidances. But I mean, especially, you know, for example, if the ADU is in the backyard as a condo and it's not attached, I mean, that would strike somebody. It probably is a single family product. It's just in the backyard rather than having its own lot.
Not going to change the land use of that single family.
Yeah, no, I don't think we do have to change the land use. I think it's an interesting question. I think that's one that's not, I'll put it this way, it's not answered by the legislation and will much more likely be answered by industry practice.
Yeah, because that's we want to know whether this is going to be a popular concept for consumers to take on, right? And then the first thing come into their mind is like whether this is going to add value to my property or is it going to devalue? Because if you go from single family down to condo, now have it with an HOA, that might be something that they really have to consider and think about more.
You know, Helen, as you know, there's a huge premium right now put on space that's ownership, residential space. And I could easily see situations where just having the condo association and no other activity adds $300,000 of value to a property just because somebody can buy it now. So I could really easily see homes in Silicon Valley that would have gone for 2 million or 1.9 million now going for 2.4, 2.5, just as a function of the paperwork required to sell them separately. It's just instead of being 2.4 million, it's going to be 1.2 million twice. So I think it'll be, you know, which is a little bit more work for the real estate agent, but is also more value. So I see big opportunity.
Let me go to Zachary has a question. Many places in California like Tahoe, Laguna Beach, Marin County, Sonoma County, difficulty obtaining fire insurance. How do you deal with this? That would be a completely different topic. And yes, you're absolutely right. This is one of the biggest questions we've been getting asked by our past clients and then current clients. We have been having some luck with AAA on some of the properties that are not being insured by some other companies, but I don't know if any one of you have any kind of feedback or comments about this.
Yeah, if anyone knows how to fix the insurance market, call the governor. They're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah, all I can say is reach out to I wouldn't reach out to any of the big carriers. I'd reach out to one of your brokers and see if they can find a solution for you. Like, for example, I work with 3 different insurance brokers that aren't even associated with any of the big companies anymore. They're even having a hard time finding things as well now, and it's getting tough.
And
You
I
know?
have to say that some of these insurance coverage that some of our clients that are having a hard time finding insurance policies, they actually have to find out of state insurance company to insure. So that definitely, that's another topic that we can have another hour to talk about. But thank you so much for your questions. And Thomas asked, HCD told me 4 weeks ago that single family allowed a total of 3, one junior ADU, one converted ADU, and one of either detached ADU or attached ADU. Maybe Luka, you can answer that question.
Yes, so the data that I showed earlier is just generic for most of the cities, but what you'll find in most cities, there are different ADU programs. So it will look something like this. So this is an example from San Francisco. So you'll have a state ADU program, you'll have a hybrid ADU program, and then you'll have a local ADU program. Each program is different, and it's up to you to decide what program you will follow. But once you decide which program you're following, then you'll have to basically play with by those rules. So it all depends. For example, here for the hybrid, you may combine one detached or converted ADU with the junior ADU. But if you follow the state rule, you may only get one ADU on your lot. So this will all vary by city.
Yeah, that's true. And every city have their different rules for ADU. So definitely need to work with an architect to understand
Yeah, definitely.
each city. Great.
Yes, we'll be happy to look at the zoning analysis for you. Yep.
And Zachary asks, how does the Sterling Act affect these new condos and reserves, etc.? Are you guys familiar of the Sterling Act?
The Davis-Sterling Act is a state law that governs the formation of HOAs in California, and the formation of the HOA created to service the AB 1033 product would be pursuant to the Davis-Sterling Act as well. So the Davis-Sterling Act sets out things like how a condo association is elected and all these sorts of things. So it's you may need to talk to a lawyer to get really specific about it, but we're trying to plug and play into how this currently happens in the industry.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting because a lot of these homeowners, obviously, they don't have these large network where they can talk to an attorney easily and then figure things out, how to set up the HON and all that stuff. So while they're applying for these ADU under the AB 1033, yeah, I mean, you brought a very good point, is that if the city can actually streamline this process and help them with that would be huge, to allow them to do this.
And if a realtor has a plug and play form they can give to a homeowner, I mean, that just adds more value to the real estate agent in that transaction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And Amy, Luka, can you speak to what the costs are to build ADUs, a rough range?
Yes, definitely. So it'll depend on the location, the finishes you choose, the contractor you're working with, and things you would like to do with the design. But here's some examples. So for example, in Sacramento, the construction itself, it can go from about $175 a square foot, while if you work in Bay Area, with the more expensive contractor, it may go up to $600 a square foot. For example, the 2 ADUs I showed, so the first detached new construction ADU, the loft ADU was about $200,000, and the converted detached garage was about $100,000.
When you said the $200,000 for that detached ADU, how big was it?
That was 600 square feet for the ADU loft, and there was another 200 square feet for the home office.
Oh, so total of 1,000
800.
square. Oh, sorry.
Yes, 800 square feet. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
It's 800. So that the total cost for the 800 square feet, you're saying is 200,000?
Yes, that one came out to about 200,000.
That's actually really good price. I have to say, it's really good price. I'll have to talk to you a little bit more about that later. All right, and then Jake, hi, under what circumstances can you sell the 2 properties without having to live in one of the units? For example, a duplex with an extra ADU in the back lot where the owner does not live on site.
Senate Bill 9, which Luka mentioned, was a big marquee bill from the state Senate Pro Tem, Tony Atkins. That is the only law that we're talking about today that requires owner occupancy. We fought extremely hard to keep an owner occupancy requirement out of AB 1033 because owner occupancy requirements have been very chilling to production and investors, and honestly to home ownership options. So there is none in AB 1033 and won't be one. The model that I see being most effective here is that, like I said, small developer is going to buy a rundown home, fix it up, add an ADU, and then sell both cut in half, essentially, to two different folks, which would not be legal under the owner occupancy language, and that's a huge barrier to ownership in California.
Great. And actually, I think one of the last thing I have to ask is the money guy who will give up money regarding the ADU. I know you've been talking to a lot of lenders about this AB 1033. Can you maybe share with us a little bit more about like the risk and challenges where homeowners might face when they are trying to do this AB 1033 or selling their ADU separately?
I think the biggest risk that we have right now is the lack of comparables. And I think that's really the only risk we have. I see nothing but growth once we get past that first one. I see growth for everyone within the real estate industry and all of our auxiliaries. I see just us growing from it. So once we get past that first one, once we get that first lender to say, yes, we're going to lend on this because it's such a unique thing. Once that happens, I think, especially in a city like San Jose, here in Silicon Valley, where it's just going to be gangbusters because I know in my neighborhood, I can look over my fences. My house is the only one without an ADU. Luka will have to fix that. But, because, my neighbor right next door, he put doors on, I refinanced his house 3 years ago. I know what he's paying. He's paying about $3,000 a month. And he put doors on the den, the living room, and the dining room. And it's a 4-bedroom house plus a 2-bedroom ADU in the back of his house. All these tech people live there, and each one's paying about $1,000 a month for a room. So imagine what's going to happen when we open up all these ADUs for all of us down the road. Again, the only risk I see is getting that first one, that very first person, the first brave person to break through that wall. Probably it's gonna eliminate all the issues for everybody, or start to eliminate those issues. And within a year, we're gonna be finding Helen, you're gonna have stacks of ADU on your sell list, and I'm gonna be funding them all.
Well, I would love to do that, and then I'd love to have a transaction with you on these. That would be interesting, and hopefully we can be the first one to set the path for everyone else. And I'm really grateful that you guys are willing to come on here to have this conversation, where a conversation a lot of people don't really know how to go about, and we are quite confused. Even myself, when people ask me like, so how do you do it? I was like, we don't know. So I called Luis up, and then I was like, Luis, have you seen anything on the market yet? He's like, no. But then hopefully City of San Jose will be the first one. So I wish that we have more time. And guys, if you want to have more questions for one of our speakers, please do go to our website, haylengroup.com/ADU. You'll find their information there. Again, thank you so much, Luka, Sergio, and Luis, for having this great conversation, and hopefully we can talk about it again next time with an actual case study. All right, bye.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you so much for having us. Bye.